guys, welcome back to my channel. I haven't been here in a minute, so I'm gonna say it. Happy New Year. Hope the festive season was all thumbs up, and I hope the new year is looking good. As you guys can see with the title below, I wanted to do some human trafficking. So I wanted to look at some reasons why people get trafficked. You know, the most popular one that we all probably know of is prostitution or for sex work, and I wanted to get into the other reasons, or other variations why people do get trafficked. And there's a lot to say on human trafficking in general, so I probably won't dissect each and every detail, but as you guys can see, today I want to talk about human trafficking for organ transplantation or organ removal. So that's what I'll be getting into today. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you do have anything to add, please do so in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you have, I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And those of you who don't know, my name is Lerato Era, and welcome to my channel. So basically, there's a variation between trafficking in organs and human trafficking for organ removal. So trafficking in organs, the important part is the organ. They just want the organ. They want the liver or the kidney to go from South Africa to Russia, for example. Whereas with human trafficking for organ removal, they need the whole person. They don't just want the organ, they want the whole person to go from South Africa to Russia. So basically, trafficking in organs or human trafficking for organ removal is basically they take your organ for commercial sale, right? So there's a transplant that takes part where there's a buyer and the seller, and then they're gonna sell it to the highest bidder. And it's illegal because that's not the way it's supposed to be. Human organs are not commodities to be put on a black market and the highest bidder can wins the organ. You know what I mean? That's not how it's supposed to be. How you know that trading the organ may be illegal is that it is done with no supervision. Whereas usually when you're a donor, the state knows, it's a hospital, the hospital knows, you get proper psychological treatment, you get proper medical care, you told everything, you know, it's a proper procedure. Whereas when there is a syndicate involved or it's just criminals using you, then usually there is no supervision. Sometimes they will not even operate you at a hospital. Your operation will be done in somebody's back room, and basically you're just disposable. They just want the organ, and that's all they want from you. And usually people who get trafficked, like human trafficked for the organs, they will be used for other things later. Like after they take your liver or your kidney, then they'll use you for sex work later. Then you just become their little puppet. You're very disposable to them. And trading organs has no remuneration. So if you're a donor, you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, right? And if you are receiving, you didn't pay anyone to give you their organ. So that's how you know that it is illegal. There's always money somewhere involved. Okay, so there's obviously role players in the whole cycle. So you'll have the recruiter, who's obviously the one who will look for the vulnerable people that they can take advantage of. Then you have the middlemen or the contractors. I think they play the most integral part. They are the ones who maybe will profit the most also, because I think they keep the whole cycle going. You know, they know how much the buyer is willing to spend, how much the seller is willing to sell their organ for. So they basically do the contracts, probably, like they organize everything, right? And then you have the people who will transport the organs from one place to the other. If it's not in one area, then maybe from one country to the other, or one province to the other. And then you have the buyer, obviously, the seller. So some sellers do it willingly, and some don't even know that what's going to happen to them. So you have the buyer and the seller, and then you have the medical staff, which is actually quite scary, because you actually have doctors and nurses and just hospitals that are willing to help these crime syndicates. And granted, they get a lot of money, but ma'am, did you not do the whole oath thing where it's just scary that a doctor, a whole clinic or a whole hospital would participate in something like that. And then we have the organ banks, where the organs will be kept. I guess if they're not being used immediately, then yeah, you have to have some way to put them. So I feel like there's a lot of outsiders, like the medical staff and the organ banks, and I guess mortuaries. Because what happens with these people when they die? Because if you use their body parts and then you still keep them, you don't let go of them, you harbor them, and then they die, I feel like there's also mortuaries or morgues that play a part there. But anyway, then there are certain ways in which you can be recruited into selling your organ, or into them just taking your organ. So the first one is obviously using violence or threats, just forcing you to do it. The second one is they target vulnerable people. So that would be illiterate people, people who are uneducated, people who are not clued up on what's happening, poor people, migrants. So with people like that, sometimes what will happen is they'll tell you that they're treating you for something that doesn't even exist. They're taking your organs and they'll just disappear, because they're taking advantage of the fact that you don't even know what's going on right now. The poor will die because the rich can afford to buy their organs. So yeah. And then the other category is women and children. They're vulnerable because women are deemed, I guess, lower in society, societal standards. And yeah, minors don't even know what's going on. Children don't even know what's going on. They don't even give their consent. Even if they do, it's not even legal. So it's easy to entice them into doing it. And also with women, they have a high morbidity rate, so they live longer than men, and they do not engage in dangerous behavior. So they live longer than men, or they make better decisions than men. So that is why a woman's body or body parts would be more preferred than men. So the third way is some people just agree to do it. They agree to sell their organs, and they do this informally or informally. And with these ones, usually they get cheated. They don't get paid the full amount that they were supposed to get paid, or they don't get paid at all, or they just get cheated in some way. And usually they don't tell them the risks of the operation. They don't even take care of them after the operation. So it creates a financial burden on them, because after the operation, if something goes wrong or you get an infection or something, then you need to go to hospital to fix the infection or to fix whatever that went wrong. Now you don't have a kidney, you might have other now physical health issues, and then you need money. Sometimes you need money to fix all those things up. So and also, not only is it a physical threat, if you get caught illegally doing this, you may go to prison. Like you get convicted. So not only don't you have a kidney, now you're going to prison, and you don't even have your money now. So don't do it. So the least they can do is just take your money and run. Let's say they lie to you and say they need money for blood test or something, and then you give them the money, and then they just vanish with your money. I think that's the least they can do, because at least they didn't touch you or anything. So anyway, some cohesion methods that they use to kind of force you or to get you to stay under their little control is they will entice you with the money. Obviously, like if you find a poor person and you say, you know what, if you give me your kidney, I'll give you 60,000 rand or 80,000 rand. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? It might entice some people. Secondly, violence or threats. Obviously, they will threaten you or beat you to a pulp until you agree, basically. And then sometimes they won't provide the medical care that you need. And I think that's how you stay under their control, is because you're not physically well. Because firstly, they are the ones who opened you up. So you're just not physically well. So you just stay under the control because they didn't give you the physical care that you needed. And then also there's debt bondage, where they will, maybe if you're poor, they will help you out with your family. Maybe they'll give you money to buy food, or support you in some way, and then now you owe them because they helped you with something, right? Or you will or they will say, oh, we already paid for accommodation. Say if you have agreed to do it initially, now they say, we already paid for accommodation, we paid for transport, we paid for like we paid for the whole procedure, so you can't turn back now, you know, because we already spent our money, so don't make us make you. Okay, and then sometimes they just don't give you the option of getting out. There's no option. You can't say, okay, I want out now, I don't feel like going through with it anymore. There's just not that option. And I think those are the people that they will harbor, that they will just keep for life, to put it that way. Like they will just keep you forever. They'll just kidnap you in some way, because now probably after using you for your organs, then they'll take you to the streets and then use you for sex work. So trafficking organs outside of the country creates a lot of problem for the country, because now there are a lot of people who need organs who aren't getting organs, and the supply to demand ratio is very vast. There are much more people who are in need of these organs than there are people who are willing to donate. And there are other factors in between. You know, if you're gonna donate, you have to match and stuff like that. But essentially, a lot of people die while they're on this list because there's not a lot of donors. So all those organs that are going outside of the country could, if done legally, be saving somebody else's life. They could be put into better use in the country of origin, in like the country that the people are in. So most of these operations will happen in developing or developed countries, because that's where the medical stuff is the best, the hospitals are the best. Makes proper sense, right? And then if not, then they will just create a makeshift operations room in somebody's house. And I think that's where all the medical or the physical threats come in, because the area might not be safe because you're in somebody's house and people are going to open you and take your organ and all those things. The buyers are usually from richer countries, right? And the sellers are usually from poorer countries. So this is where the middlemen make money, because if the rich guy is willing to spend R1 million on a kidney, and the seller doesn't know anything, they are vulnerable, they're illiterate, they're poor, they're just desperate, and they're willing to sell it for a mere 20,000 rand, how much money is the middleman making? And also there's transplant tourism, where the human trafficker will make money from migrants. Say somebody's coming from Mozambique into South Africa, and they're willing to give the trafficker their kidney for the trafficker to smuggle them into South Africa. That's tense. For you to be so desperate to get into another country that you'll be willing to give an organ. So yeah. Anyway, in South Africa, the most in demand organ is the kidney, and there's actually a movie called Bypass. I haven't seen it, but apparently it's about a doctor whose child needs a transplant. So I'm guessing that he participated in the illegal, transplants just to save their son. But if you have seen that movie, please comment in the section and tell us how it was. I'll probably try to watch it sometime and then I'll get back to you guys. So there was actually a saga in the early 2000s where there's a hospital in Durban. It's called Netcare St. Augustine, and the doctors there were actually involved in a syndicate. So they were involved in human trafficking organs. So they operated on a number of individuals, including minors, and they got caught. And when a doctor participates in such, they contravene the Human Tissue Act. And basically these doctors got into trouble, obviously. I mean, did you not do the oath? Like, what did the oath mean to you? It's so scary that doctors would agree to do this. And I understand maybe they needed the money or whatever, but it's like, damn. Also, I think hospitals don't immediately catch that this is illegal, because some of the paperwork make it seem as if the donor and the recipient are family members, so you wouldn't really suspect anything. So anyway, the doctors that were involved had to pay 20,000 for the minors that they operated on. They had to pay 4 million for receiving the money from the traffickers and for participating in illegal kidney transplants, and they had to pay 3.8 million, which is like the money that they made from being involved in this whole saga. Now you don't even have the money because you have to pay it back, and you lose your career because you're all over the papers and they're gonna check you out. Anyway, organ trafficking flourishes mostly because most of the attention is on the trafficking or for sex work or for forced labor, which I'll be talking about next week. And some of the ways that organ trafficking can be prevented or like dealt with, the first one is the dealing with the socio-economic inequalities that are there in society. The fact that somebody is so rich that they can afford to buy somebody who's so poor's organ is a problem. The fact that somebody is poor enough to consider selling their organ so that they can feed their family, and then they get robbed along the way, they don't even get paid the full amount and whatever. So the poverty and the inequalities that there are in society create to some degree this problem. And secondly, they say promoting a healthy lifestyle. So to some degree I understand this one, where basically if you promote a healthy lifestyle, then people will be taking care of their bodies, so then I guess all our organs will be in shape, so we won't need any organs to some degree though, because even if you live a healthy lifestyle, you might still get sick. But then I think maybe they mean to say that if they promote a healthy lifestyle, then there will be less, the demand won't be so high. So maybe not drinking, not smoking, doing drugs, taking better care of your body may help the bigger picture. So yeah, and then there's also the legislature. So we do have the prevention and combating of trafficking in persons, which is on paper, but you hear of so many stories. There's so many cars with number plates on Twitter, and the person will say this, the people in this car tried to grab me, or there's just always something about a girl almost being taken away. And it's like, where are the police though? The law is there, we see it, it's on paper, but what is actually being done? I know there are some instances where we've heard of trafficking syndicates who have been convicted, they went to court and stuff like that, but I feel like more can be done. More police visibility will probably help. That's that on that. And awareness should be made on a larger scale. When you're watching TV, adverts, there's many media outlets that can be used to educate people. In a bus, advertisements on the street, and we have smartphones where there are people who are living in villages or something who probably need it more than us. Also, educating the donor and the recipient on the risks of the operation, on the risks of going through with donating your liver or your whatever kidney, because as much as maybe you might want to, after being told about the risk or being educated on it, then you have better perspective. You don't just go into something closed-eyed, but education. So that's all I have on organ trafficking. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's quite serious. If you have anything to add, please do comment down below. And yeah, next week I'll be back with labor exploitation, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to do all the nice things below, and I'll catch you guys next week.